Welcome to Workstyle Stories, because life changes and every life is different. This week I'm joined by Kerry Kiel. Hi, Kerry.
Hello, Alex. Hi.
And we're going to be talking about travel. We're going to be talking about synchronous and asynchronous working, and we're going to be talking about work fitting around life. But before we do that, Kerry, just tell us a little bit about who you are, where you come from, where you live, and what you do.
Okay. My name's Kerry Kiel. I'm originally from the UK. I'm currently living in Thailand, and among other things, I do digital project managing. I run my own company, and take freelance projects on here and there.
It looks like you're living the dream. I mean, that background and the weather, it just looks spectacular.
Like my palm trees.
Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling the real need to get out and sample nature now, having seen you. Tell us a little bit about your work then, because you haven't always lived and worked in Thailand, have you? So what was your kind of, what took you there? Where were you before that? What were you doing?
Okay, so I actually came to Thailand originally to be a diving instructor in 2003. And then I kind of went along the diving career ladder and ended up running my own dive center in the Hilton in Phuket. Cool. And then I fell in love and wanted to get married to a German man. And as part of that, after 10 years in Phuket, we moved to Germany. And I followed the job. I was in an office job there and then went on to Africa. And I've actually gone full circle and I'm back in Thailand now. But luckily enough, I can keep my work and keep doing my thing because of what we're talking about today, which is Workstyle.
Wow. So you've done a lot of traveling. I mean, it sounds pretty envious. Talk to me about you said there you had a proper job. So in Germany, was it? Well, yeah.
Outside of the scuba diving, I then got a proper job.
You were living the 9-to-5 dream. So talk to me about that, and how did that work? So you went to Germany with your fella, and what was it like?
Well, actually, it was part of my own dream to go back to Europe. And after 10 years here in Thailand, I thought I wanted the norm, which was 9-to-5 and being in an office with other people. And I thought that would be for me. And I just felt very limited by it. It didn't, I didn't feel like I could get where I wanted to be with it. And I missed the travel. My husband's career actually involves a lot of travel. I wasn't able to be with him, and it was very limiting to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So what happened then at that point? So you stopped doing that, or did you relocated, didn't you, because your husband travels a lot? So how did that go down?
He got opportunity to move to Africa, and and actually, I think the first thing that came with me was the stress of that, because, I didn't want to lose my job, but I did want to be with my husband, and it was really stressful. It's how do I make this happen? Yeah. And, that takes its toll on your mental health. Actually, it takes its toll on your relationship, and I needed to find a way. And that's when I started to look into freelancing and, how could I retrain? How do I have the time to retrain? How do I do that? And I just had to take a serious think about getting out of the traditional, let's say 9-to-5, but the traditional working model, and find something new that works.
Yeah. Okay. So you moved whilst you did that job though, right? So you didn't just do it in Germany, is that right? So you were doing it from all over. So that's quite forward thinking of them to kind of let you do that. But how was it in reality, like working, being the remote worker, if you like, of the team when the team is in Germany? Was that?
I know what you mean, because when I first moved, I found myself, I was actually in Africa. I was in Uganda first and later in Nigeria. And I felt limited because I wanted to know more about those cultures. I wanted to know more about those countries. I wanted to be a part of those countries, but I was working still somehow tied to the traditional model working remotely, but the rest of the office were nailed in 9 to 5 in Germany, expecting me to be nailed to that same time frame, that same model. And I felt restricted by it. I couldn't, there was no time for me to go and meet new people or do new things because I had to be at my desk.
So now, so fast forward then. So obviously you took the plunge at that point then to stop the 9 to 5, albeit with the benefits of having the ability to travel and to work from anywhere. The issue more was about having sort of, you know, being in a different place to everyone else, but working to the same schedule. So sort of almost synchronous working, albeit perhaps in a different time zone. So you obviously decided to change direction, and you are where you are now. So tell me a little bit now about what you do differently to then. So how is life different for you now?
Well, I have the opportunity to get away from my desk and not feel guilty about it. You know, I communicate my hours to those that I work with on each project. I think that's quite an important thing to say. And I think that, you know, work style is not necessarily fixed for me. I don't like to be fixed by it or feel like I have to be at my desk. So what I've done is week by week, or sometimes month by month, depending on the project, I define my work style to make sure that I have those opportunities to be able to enjoy where I live. So that might be to be able to take my dog for a walk, or to go down to the beach, or to a running group that, you know, we meet at certain times of day. Every Thursday afternoon I go and play tennis, but it's not, I'm not actually working any less. I've just kind of shuffled my hours and my life around what I do. Exactly. And that is so important, because you can get so bogged down just sat at your desk and feeling like you can't live. And that's what the new work style has done for me, if you like.
So that's brilliant. So from your point of view, obviously things are rosy and that's great, but in terms of the people that you're working with then, so the problem that you had before with this kind of asynchronous synchronous working, so expected to be together at the same time, how does it work with everyone else? So you said that you tell people when you're working and when they can work with you, but how does it work in practice in terms of, you know, the people you work with all, you know, knowing what they're supposed to be doing and doing the things that they're doing if you're not working together at the same time?
Yeah.
Does everyone have the same, you know, approach to that?
Everyone I work with has their own work styles, actually, and we all respect that. So, you know, there's a lot of collaboration in documents sometimes, you know, rather than having endless meetings, we can actually get through a lot and achieve a lot just through, you know, some of the applications that are out there, you know, be it collaborating in Google Documents or collaborating in forums or Slack channels or something like this. And I think those kind of tools are really important, because you can still share fun things like pictures and chats and emojis or something like this and make it a bit fun. And also, like I said, my work style, because it's not fixed, it can be quite flexible to the project I'm working on. So if I know that there is a weekly meeting and the team are getting together at this time each week, it's fine. It's an hour of my time. But I will find time. I'll work around that. So, you know, if it happens that on a Friday, suddenly I'm working a lot of afternoons, I won't work Friday mornings for a month or something like this. It works.
Good for you.
For me, anyway.
Brilliant. So you're in control. I love the way that you talk about shuffling, because I think really that's what this is all about, is being able to shuffle your own priorities, be responsible for the things you're responsible for, but in charge of when and where you do them. And that hopefully gives you more of a fulfilled life, and the way you talked about it in terms of connecting with the country you're living in, or the people you're living near, and being more in touch with that as you travel and explore. I think that's inspiring, and something that I think all of us would love to do at some point. So Kerry, thank you very much for sharing your story with us.
I think life changes, life's flexible, and I just like to be able to have a work style that reflects that as well.